Gilded Age Episode 7 doesn't just stir up drama, it rips everything apart. With a scandalous book throwing society into chaos, secrets unraveling left and right, and hearts breaking in the cruelest ways. This episode takes us deeper into betrayal, grief, and destruction than we've ever seen before. And trust me, by the time it's over, you won't see any of these characters the same way again. Episode 7 hits like a punch to the chest stand, not just for Oscar, but for all of us. The way John is suddenly gone, ripped away from the story and from Oscar's life, feels brutal. There's no build-up, no warning, no mercy, just heartbreak. And poor Oscar is left to hold on to a photograph like it's the only thing keeping him from collapsing completely. Watching him try to mourn in silence is honestly unbearable. He's devastated, but he can't even cry out loud, not in front of his mother, not in front of society, not in front of anyone. He has to swallow all of it, pretend like it's just a tragedy, and move on. And when his mother dares to say that men don't feel these things the way women do, you can see something die inside him all over again. Like, excuse me, how do you say something that cold to your own son when he's literally falling apart? And thank God for Marian, yes, Marian, because in that one moment, she's the only one who sees him, really sees him. She holds him while he weeps and doesn't judge him in that moment. It's rare, it's tender, it's real, and it hurts. Because even in his grief, Oscar still has to perform. He still has to hide, still has to protect his secret. And it makes you wonder, is this the moment that changes everything for him? Is John's death the push Oscar needed to finally be honest, at least with himself? Or maybe with those closest to him? I know it's dangerous, I know it's risky. But when you lose the one person who made hiding bearable, sometimes there's nothing left to lose. But it's not just grief that's destroying Oscar right now, it's the silence. The forced smile, the pressure to carry on, and you can feel it, can't you? That tightness in his chest, the way he glances around like the walls are closing in. His story in this episode is one of the most heartbreaking arcs we've seen in the entire series. And the saddest part, most people around him still have no idea what he's really mourning. That's the kind of loneliness that breaks a person. That's why this episode isn't just sad, it's cruel. Because it reminds us how deeply people suffer in silence when they're not allowed to speak the truth. And Oscar is living proof of that. And while Oscar's mourning a love he could never fully claim, Marian is out here making decisions that might cost her everything. She's impulsive, she's angry, and she's hurt. But instead of facing what she's feeling, she sends a letter. A cold, final, dismissive letter to Larry, breaking off everything they built. And here's the thing, yes, Larry lied. Yes, he made a mistake. But did he deserve to be cut off like that? Couldn't Marian have waited just a little longer until he got back from Arizona and explained everything? Apparently not. And now, Larry's broken too. But instead of blaming himself, he and George are pointing fingers at Bertha again. And I swear, this part is exhausting. Bertha might be many things. She's ambitious, she's strategic, she's proud. But this constant cycle of blaming her for everything is just ridiculous. Especially when she had nothing to do with Marian and Larry's breakup. And yet, in episode 7, she's once again the scapegoat. It's like nobody in that house can take responsibility for their own mess. So they dump it all on Bertha. And honestly, I'm tired of it. If you want to come at Bertha, come at her for things she actually did. Don't use her as a shield for your own guilt. And let's be honest, George wouldn't be scrambling to salvage his reputation if he hadn't fired Clay in a fit of pride. So maybe look in the mirror. Sir. Meanwhile, Larry's out here with news that could have changed everything. Copper, enough to last a century. That kind of discovery doesn't come every day. But instead of celebration, he walks into heartbreak. He shares the news with his father, only to receive devastating news in return. Not about the deal, not about business, but about Marian. She's gone, just like that. And it's not just a breakup, it's a betrayal. Because Larry never got the chance to explain himself. And Marian? She never gave him the benefit of the doubt. So now we've got another broken heart, another layer of bitterness, and once again, Bertha is caught in the crossfire. This episode doesn't just give us drama, it digs into the pain. The kind that leaves bruises. The kind that lingers long. After the credits roll, Oscar's grief, Marian's impulsive betrayal, Larry's crushed hopes, it's all woven together in a way that makes everything feel heavier. And it's just the beginning. Because, as we'll see in the next sections, this episode isn't done breaking hearts or reputations. And trust me, the fallout is only getting started. The chaos doesn't stop with broken hearts because episode 7 brings an even bigger storm. And it comes wrapped in paper and ink. Malister's book, Society as I Have Found It, is the scandal nobody saw coming. And yet, it's the one thing that threatens to tear apart every carefully crafted reputation in New York. The women are the first to get their hands on it. Flipping through the pages with dread and disbelief, you can practically hear the gasps. Mrs. Astor, in particular, is horrified. She calls it a disgrace, claims it ridicules society, and will destroy the order they've all built. And she's not wrong. Because this book doesn't just share gossip, it exposes people, real names, real stories, and real consequences. Suddenly, everything these families have worked so hard to protect their image, their influence, their future is hanging by a thread. It's like someone lit a match in a room full of secrets. And now everything is catching fire. And Bertha, she's once again thrown right into the middle of it, but this time, she's not the target, she's the solution. The only one who's thinking clearly. While others panic, Bertha stands firm. The only way to stop gossip is the truth, she says, and honestly, it's the most rational voice in the room. She's not going to let some bitter writer destroy what she's built. And more importantly, she's not going to let the women around her crumble. Episode 7 might finally give us the moment we've been waiting for. The women unite. And not just for tea and gossip, but for power, for protection, and for revenge. Because make no mistake, this book is war. And Bertha? She's already planning her counterattack, but let's not pretend it'll be easy. Because while Bertha might be trying to play damage control, Mrs. Astor is thinking bigger. She's worried about her Newport ball. Yes. Even in the middle of a full-blown social collapse, she's trying to save face and keep the party going. Classic. But this isn't just about a dance. Flora, it's about legacy, about control, and about proving that no book, no scandal, and no outsider can dethrone the old elite. So what does she do? She turns to Bertha, the same woman she once tried to push aside. And now, suddenly, Bertha's the only one who can salvage what's left of this crumbling society. The irony is delicious. And Bertha, she knows it. She steps into the role like a seasoned PR manager, polishing reputations, redirecting the narrative, and preparing for battle. But deep down, you can tell she's not doing it for Mrs. Astor. She's doing it to protect herself. Because one wrong move, and Bertha's enemies will use this chaos to take her down too. And while all of this plays out in the drawing rooms and parlor gossip, there's a much quieter war brewing in the Russell household. Someone has been leaking stories to the press, and they're getting bolder. It's not speculation anymore, it's sabotage. And Bertha is furious. You can feel the tension simmering behind every scene in that house. The staff are nervous, the family is suspicious, and trust. It's gone. Everyone is a suspect. Andre, the maid with an ear for secrets, is the obvious choice. She's been lurking in corners, listening behind doors, and moving a little too quietly. But would she really risk everything? Maybe, maybe not. Some people think it's Mrs. Bruce. Others say it's someone even closer. But whoever it is, they've crossed a line. Because it's not just personal anymore. This mole is playing with power, with people's lives, and with a reputation. Bertha has fought tooth and nail to build, and Bertha, she doesn't forgive. And she never forgets. The deeper we go into episode 7, the more the tension builds. Secrets are everywhere inside the houses, between the families, even within the marriages. And the worst part, no one knows who to trust. Peggy, meanwhile, is facing her own nightmare. Mrs. Kirkland is back at it again, digging into Peggy's past, asking too many questions, and whispering poisonous words into William's ear. It's so clear she's trying to push Peggy out, and it's infuriating. In episode 6, we already saw her expressing doubts about Peggy's ability to handle William's child and his responsibilities. As if being a black woman automatically makes her less capable, it's the same tired prejudice wrapped in concern. And now, in episode 7, she might have found out something about Mr. Fortunand. She's ready to spill it all. Whether it's true or not, she's planning to use it. Because Mrs. Kirkland doesn't want Peggy to just leave quietly. She wants to ruin her. But here's the thing. Peggy has been through hell and back. She's fought harder than anyone in that household. And while she may be surrounded by people trying to tear her down, she's not going out without a fight. William may be blind to his mother's manipulation right now, but eventually, he's going to see it. And when he does, he'll have to decide. Does he trust the woman who gave him life, or the woman who stood by his side when no one else did? That's the battle Peggy's facing in episode 7, and it's one she can't afford to lose. By the end of this section, the world of Gilded Age feels like it's burning at both ends. Love is broken, loyalties are tested, and reputations are seconds from collapsing. And somehow, Bertha is still standing in the middle of it all, not untouched, but unbroken. For now, but make no mistake, the reckoning is coming. The emotional wreckage in episode 7 doesn't slow down, it gets sharper, more personal, and honestly more heartbreaking. Marian's decision to cut Larry off with a cold, one-sided letter continues to echo throughout the episode. It's not just about love lost, it's about trust shattered. We know Larry made a mistake. We know he lied. But what makes Marian's betrayal so gut-wrenching is how quick it was, how final. She didn't wait, she didn't ask questions, she didn't give him a chance to explain what happened in Arizona or why things unfolded the way they did. She acted like there was no space for forgiveness, like everything between them could be erased in a few words scribbled on paper. And for Larry, that's not just painful, it's infuriating. Because he really cared. He was planning a future. And now, all he's left with is confusion and rage. And who does he take it out on? Bertha? Of course, it's always Bertha. Every time something goes wrong in that family, she's the punching bag. Larry returns home, not with excitement about the copper discovery, but with a storm building inside him. He confronts George. He blames his mother. And suddenly, everyone is throwing accusations like grenades. Bertha's not innocent, she rarely is, but this time, she didn't manipulate Marian. She didn't sabotage the relationship, but the men in her life don't see that. They're too busy protecting their egos to see what's really going on. George, still licking his wounds from the Clay disaster, is already feeling cornered. And Larry, he's spiraling. Not just because of Marian's rejection, but because he knows this deal, this copper mine was supposed to be his redemption. It was supposed to prove he was worth something more than just being Bertha Russell's son. And now, all of it feels meaningless. Because what's the point of a victory if the one person you wanted to share it with has already walked away? But let's talk about Marian for a second, because her storyline in episode 7 really pulls back the curtain on her character. She's always been a little naive, a little impulsive, but this episode makes you realize just how guarded she really is. She's been burned before by Tom, by her family, by society, and now she's decided she won't let anyone hurt her again. So instead of confronting Larry, instead of asking for the truth, she armors up and pushes him away. It's self-preservation disguised as righteousness. And maybe she thinks she's doing the mature thing, but all she's really doing is running. Running from vulnerability. Running from the messy, complicated truth that real relationships aren't perfect. And in that moment, Marian becomes her own worst enemy. Because she's not just hurting Larry, she's isolating herself again. Meanwhile, George is fighting battles of his own. The fallout from firing Clay has finally caught up to him. The company is floundering, the trust of his associates is slipping. And the only good news he has, Larry's copper mine, is buried beneath the noise of family drama. George isn't used to losing control. He's a man who prides himself on his strength, his ability to keep the world turning even when the odds are stacked against him. But in episode 7, you can see the cracks forming. He lashes out. He accuses. He blames Bertha even when deep down, he knows this mess was his own doing. It's what pride looks like when it's backed into a corner, ugly, bitter, and scared. And Bertha, she absorbs it all. Not because she agrees, not because she's guilty, but because she knows the cost of losing power. And right now, keeping her family intact, no matter how toxic their being, is more important than winning the argument. But something else is happening beneath the surface. Something Bertha doesn't see yet. The family fractures are deepening. The trust is eroding. And for the first time, Bertha might not be able to hold it all together. Because how do you lead when no one believes you anymore? How do you protect your empire when even your own husband and son are looking at you like a threat? Episode 7 doesn't just give us tension, it shows us a family at war with itself. A house built on ambition and control, now shaking at its foundation. And it's not just the Russells across town. Every household is dealing with their own unraveling. Peggy, still unaware of the full extent of the storm brewing around her, is trying to stay grounded. But you can feel the danger closing in. Mrs. Kirkland's whispers are spreading, and it's only a matter of time before the damage is done. The question is, how much will Peggy lose before someone finally stands up for her? Because William, he's still stuck between loyalty to his mother and whatever he feels for Peggy. He's passive, he's quiet, and while Peggy deserves a fighter, all she has is a man too afraid to speak. It's painful to watch, especially knowing how hard she's fought to be seen, to be heard, to be respected. And now, just when things seem to be moving forward, She's about to get dragged backward by a woman who sees her as nothing more than a threat. What episode 7 does so brilliantly is show how the smallest choices, one letter, one rumor, one moment of silence can lead to devastating consequences. And no one is safe. Marian thinks she's protecting herself, but she's burning bridges. Larry thinks he's asserting himself, but he's unraveling. George thinks he's saving face, but he's losing ground. And Bertha, she's trying to play the long game, but even she knows time is running out. This episode isn't just about what's happening now, it's about what's coming. The fallout, the reckoning, and the slow, steady collapse of the world. These characters thought they controlled, while everyone else is too distracted with heartbreak, rejection, and public scandal. Bertha's biggest threat is hiding much closer than she thinks. Episode 7 slowly tightens the noose around the Russell household, and the question that's haunted them for weeks finally comes to a head. Who is leaking their secrets to the press? Who's the traitor within? At first, it all seemed like background noise, just another rumor, another story twisted out of shape. But now, the leaks are too specific, too intentional, and Bertha knows it. She's built her life around controlling her family's image, her social standing, even her enemies. But now, someone is slipping through the cracks and using her own world against her and the betrayal. It's personal. Every glance, every interaction in the Russell household is suddenly filled with tension. The staff are walking on eggshells. Even the walls feel like they're listening. And then there's Andre, the maid who's always in the right place at the wrong time. She's quiet, observant, and honestly, a little too good at knowing things she shouldn't. We've seen her eavesdrop before, standing just outside doorways, absorbing conversations like it's second nature. And while suspicion naturally falls on her, the question still lingers: would she really risk everything for a few pieces of gossip? Would she betray the woman who gave her a place in the grandest house in New York? Maybe, but maybe that's exactly what makes her the perfect mole. And yet, something doesn't quite add up. She's smart, sure, but is she strategic enough to plant stories and avoid detection? Or is she just the easiest scapegoat? Then there's Mrs. Bruce. Kind, dependable. Mrs. Bruce, the last person anyone would expect, which, of course, makes her a very real possibility. She's been around long enough to know everything. She's seen how Bertha operates, how the household runs, how the lines of power flow, and maybe, just maybe, she's grown tired of being a background character in a house ruled by fear and ambition. The truth is, episode 7 doesn't give us a clean answer. It leaves us with questions, doubt, and the kind of suspense that crawls under your skin. Because it's not just about finding the mole, it's about realizing that trust, once broken, doesn't come back easy. And Bertha, she knows she has to act fast. If she doesn't expose the leak soon, her enemies will use it to bury her once and for all. But while Bertha is playing detective behind closed doors, outside in society, everything is shifting. The scandalous book has done more than stir gossip. It's rewritten the rules. The elite are in panic mode. Reputations are dissolving overnight. And in that chaos, new players are stepping into the light. Gladys, for instance, is having a moment, and it's not subtle. For so long, she's been underestimated, sheltered, treated like a child in her own home. But in episode 7, we see a different version of her. She's sharper, braver, more cunning. And when she puts pressure on Sarah, her so-called chaperone, you can feel the balance of power shifting. She's not afraid anymore. Not of the expectations, not of her mother, and certainly not of Sarah. And the look on Sarah's face, total shock. It's like she finally realizes Gladys isn't a doll to be dressed up and hidden away. She's a force. Quiet, maybe, but rising. The Gladys-Sarah dynamic is a perfect mirror of what's happening on a larger scale. Young women stepping into power, old systems struggling to keep control. And what makes this subplot so powerful is how subtle it is. Gladys doesn't scream or fight. She just moves. With intention. With grace. And with a fire in her eyes that says she's done being managed. And Hector. Poor Hector is stuck in the middle, trying to play peacemaker between a daughter who's finally found her voice and a chaperone who's quickly losing her grip. The question is, how long can he keep the peace? Because once Gladys truly breaks free, there's no putting her back in the box. And honestly, it's about time. Back to the central chaos. The society women are scrambling. Mrs. Astor is trying to maintain dignity while the pages of that book tear down everything she represents. And as much as she tries to pretend she's above it all, you can see the cracks. Her meetings with Bertha feel more desperate now. Less like alliances, more like lifelines. Because deep down, she knows the world is changing and fast. The old rules don't hold the same power. Scandal spreads faster than decorum, and status, once earned, can be destroyed with a single headline. And Bertha, she's using that knowledge, like a sword, not to destroy, but to defend. She's not afraid of gossip. She's afraid of irrelevance. That's why she's playing her cards so carefully, calculating every move, every conversation, every smile, because one slip, one misstep, and the wolves will devour her. What episode 7 does so brilliantly is show how betrayal doesn't always come with a knife in the back. Sometimes it's a whisper, a glance, a decision made behind closed doors. And in a world built on appearances, those small betrayals can be far more dangerous than the obvious ones. The mole in the Russell house is still out there, watching, listening, waiting, and the longer they go unnoticed, the more damage they can do. Bertha knows this, and whether it's Andre, Mrs. Bruce, or someone no one's even suspected yet, she's preparing for Wardop because survival in this world isn't about being liked. It's about being feared, respected, unshakable. And Bertha Russell, love her or hate her, is still standing. But for how much longer? With enemies on the outside, traitors on the inside, and a family that's slowly turning against her. Even Bertha's strength has its limits.